Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good to see everybody on today. So I'm back for episode 3 of what she said. And just so everybody gets a bit of understanding, for those who are not familiar with she is an acronym for Saved, Healed, and Enough. Because in this season, I feel that God wants you to know that you are saved, healed, and enough. Um, and I think that's something that we all sometimes need to be reassured of, that we are enough. Um, and once you come to the realization that you are enough, you'll be able to move forward um, a lot more freely um, in your gifting and launch your vision. Uh, this morning my mood is a little different. Um, this is really going to be a very candid and authentic journey that I'm inviting you on with me. I'm not just speaking about these things. I'm living them. I'm going through them in the moment. I'm just choosing to share with you. Um, so, this morning my worship was a little different um, because my constant prayer is that I want to be worthy of my gifting. I want to be worthy of my calling. Um, and I just want to be better every day. Uh, you know, I accept the fact that I am imperfect and I'm okay with that. And I know that God is okay with it. Um, and I want everybody else who embarks on this journey with me to be okay with their imperfections and understand that we evolve daily. Change is not something that's easily acquired. Um, it takes time, it takes work, and it takes effort. And you have to be willing to do the work. You have to be willing to take the steps and be vulnerable and be honest with yourself while you're on this journey in order for it to work. And so, my prayer for you this morning is that you're ready to embark on this journey um, and really work toward being the best you that you can be. Um, so, that's where I'm at this morning um, because I don't know. That's just, where I'm at. Even with my shirt this morning, let me just show you my shirt. See? Um, it's just to reiterate because sometimes I need to encourage myself. We all need to encourage ourselves that even though we may not look like what the world thinks we should look like, we may not look like what um, religion and church folk feel like we should look like, but we're okay. And we're definitely worthy of um, all that God has for us. Um, and this wonderful song that, I started off my worship with this morning, and I just wanted to share that with you all. It's by the Flowers. Um, the Showers. And the song is called Better. Um, and it's an awesome worship song. And it really speaks to my heart in this season. Um, so I just wanted to, play a little bit of that and set the mood and share my worship with you just a little bit on this morning. No, I do not own the copyrights to that song. It's just a song that I love. Um, and it really helps set the tone for worship and for my worship. So let's get right into this thing, uh, on this morning again. Um, doing the work to really heal from and move forward from traumatic experiences can be trying and tiring. So you definitely um, invest in a notebook, invest in a journal, um, write it down. Find that quiet place and space where you can really just be alone with your thoughts and your prayers. And let's be clear, everybody's prayer is different, and it's not a, you don't have to be yelling and screaming and running around to really get your point across to God. Um, Talking to God is as it is as simple as me sitting here speaking to you. And you can just sit and have a conversation. There are moments when I'm praying and I'm not opening my mouth, where it's audible, but I'm opening my heart and sharing with God everything that's in my heart. There are also moments when I'm on the floor, boo, because I just need to be free from a thing. And that's just where I'm at in that moment. It can go from, being very neat and quiet to very loud and emotional. And that's okay. God takes it however you give it, as long as you're giving it freely and giving it from the heart, because that's what He wants from us, that candidness, that vulnerability. So sometimes you have to dig a little deep. You're gonna have to go down into the secret place, and those things that we even suppress from ourselves, and and just give it to Him. And and that's part of freeing yourself from that. It's the things that we hold on to and we hoard, that tend to weigh us down because of that self-imposed shame. Um, and it's understand that it is self-imposed. You can't give that much credence to other people's voices. You you can't do that. And it's a learning curve to know and understand that you really don't require the validation of others. Um, what you should be striving and seeking for is the validation from God, and He's already done that. He made you, so He's very accepting of that. And learning to love and validate yourself. As long as you are pleased with who and what you are, and that you are doing the best you can every day to be a better you, you have to learn to be okay with that, and be enough for you. Part of the reason for myself, because again, this is, my journey, and I can't speak to yours, but prayerfully, this will help you. Um, Again, is, those traumatic experiences and turning points, pivotal moments in your life that you've just kind of basically attached, um, or attach themselves to your personality, and those traits kind of follow. So, you know, a lot of what I found for me was a lot of my characteristics were rooted in trauma. Now, let me be clear: traumatic experiences vary. They vary by person. To what you may feel is traumatic for you may not be as traumatic for someone else. Um, it could be a physical trauma. It could be emotional trauma. It could be mental trauma, spiritual trauma. And those things, they kind of vary. And you have to find in you, what really makes it traumatic. I did write some things down, and questions that I've asked myself, and, you know, to figure out the trauma. So you have to figure out the onset of the trauma, um, identify the source of the trauma, be it a person, a place, a situation, um, and then explore your feelings about it. You have to identify um, traits that were brought about by this trauma in order to figure out those characteristics. So there is levels to it. Um, so while you're, doing your writing, you write down what makes an experience traumatic for you, um, because it is personal. Um, Identify your personal traumas, you know, and how do you feel about it, and the things that it's affected in your life, like things you don't do, people you in places you avoid, situations that trigger you, um, and things that matter. So, on a clinical level, trauma is defined by a deeply distressing or disturbing experience. It is also defined as a physical injury. Um, and the American Psychological Association identifies trauma as an emotional response um, to a situation, um, and that's for those scholars who want to know, um, you know, how that fits into the science and the healthcare field. Um, for me, a lot of you know my self image um, was tied up in traumatic experiences. And because of that, I had a skewed view of myself. Um, it made me, some of my traumatic experiences made me conscious. I had some self esteem issues, and it made me fearful and always conscious of how people were viewing me and how they saw me. And those things took precedent in my mind. And I was always focused on that and never really focused on me and how I saw me. Um, so it affected my development in such a way that I almost kind of like handicapped and hindered myself. I suppressed a lot of things. I suppressed my dreams, my aspirations, and my goals, things that I wanted to do. I took a step back from and I shied away from because of those traumatic experiences and those characteristics, those traits that I carried over into adulthood. A lot of my trauma is rooted in my childhood. Now I do I've had some adult experience that weren't so great, but a lot of my issues were really rooted in, my childhood. Um, so that's where I had to begin. You have to choose, where you begin. Um, so as I begin to make myself a priority, as I spoke about in my last episode, um, once you make that decision, uh, the next step is now figuring out you, because now you don't have those, you've made yourself the priority. So now you don't have the stressors so much of other people's issues and them tugging and pulling on you and you just dedicating yourself to them. So now you're forced to really deal with you and now have to develop me. So where do I go from here? Like how do I go about that? Like what who am I? Yeah, like that's the question. So now who am I? Because so much of my identity was wrapped up in me prioritizing everybody else. So now without that, who am I? My God. And so you have to dig deep into those far deep recesses of your heart and mind and start pulling out all of those things that you suppressed and put to the side, um, and tucked away and ignored, including that nagging call that's in the pit of your belly, the small still voice in your ear, um, whispering, telling you what God has wanted you to do, and those things that have nagged you forever. And it's scary to have to deal with those things. Like, wow, so this is what I've neglected um, all these years and all this time that I've been, making everybody else the priority and not making myself a priority. Well, guess what? A change is going to come because when you make the decision to make yourself a priority, um, you got to deal with those things. And making yourself a priority, it's like almost being brand new because there's so much that you didn't do. So in comes incoming, the new. And for me, my new was this, focusing truly on my vision, launching those things and operating in that call and being obedient to what God has asked me to do, no matter what. But make no mistake, it didn't come easy. That's a hard decision to make. Like, you're stepping truly out. You have to have faith. And so I made the decision to truly just step out on faith and put myself out there. Um, and that's a big deal. I'm not just sharing a word with you. I'm not just going through the Bible, reading some scriptures and giving you a message. I'm being candid, and I'm opening myself up and inviting you into my personal space, my personal journey. And I'm like, God, you really asking this of me? You want me to let the people all the way in? You want me to tell them, oh, yeah, no, come on. And I started negotiating with him, like, Father, come on, don't do me like this. You know, I don't like it. I don't like to tell everybody everything. What if they judge me? What are they going to say about me? What if they don't understand? And I went through all of that. Um, and I wrestled with it. And I mean, I wrestled with it. Like, people are real judgy. Like, I don't know if I'm ready for the scrutiny. I don't really like to be in the spotlight. I'm a person who really likes the background. Um, and, he reassured me that, yeah, this is what I want. This is what you're going to do. And if you're going to be obedient to the call that you agreed to accept, um, this is how it's going to have to go. And so I didn't have a choice because I said yes. I gave him my yes and my amen. And so now I have to um, be true to my word. And so that means you got to deal with all those things. But it's a blessing, because it also is a healing process, you know, and I'm learning to understand why I feel the way that I feel about a lot of things. Coming up as a child, I was judged a lot. Um, and sometimes harshly, be it for the color of my skin. Um, I was always the darkest child in my class. I'm one of the darkest um, people on my mother's side of the family, not my father's. I get my skin complexion from my dad. And I'm a child. I was born in '78. In those times, being of a darker skin tone was not a popular thing, and there were some people who embraced it, but some people who would not. And so I ended up being the butt of a lot of jokes for being the darkest child in my class. Um, and a lot of times when people would, and even adults and family members would address me, they would use my skin tone in a derogatory manner, which made me self-conscious about my color. Um, I also had kind of um, my home life was kind of out of order. And so I didn't really have the stability that a lot of um, my other people, kids around me had. And so because I didn't have that stability, I was always fighting to find a place that was my own and to be accepted, even in my own family. Because you do have those people that are like, oh, I'll take her. You could have honestly left me where I was at if you was going to treat me like this. Because they'll, they mean well, but the road to hell is paved with, good intentions. And then you hear and you feel that you're being treated as if you're the inconvenience, or they had the inappropriate conversations about my parents and their inability to care for me or their poor choices, and inadvertently and sometimes just blatantly um, mistreated me and mishandled me because of the sins of my parents. And so now I'm being judged and I'm a child. And so now that has become a part of my makeup. And I had to walk out of that in my adult life. But it took a lot of time because this is now ingrained in me that I'm an inconvenience because of who my parents are. I'm basically just damned to just be bad and do bad, um, being judged simply for trying to, survive. And nobody bothered to ask, well, why is she so angry? Why is she so frustrated? Why is she so withdrawn? Um, Nor did they bother to look at their own actions to see how they contributed to those things. So in my adulthood, I carried that, the insecurities, the self consciousness, the low self esteem. And so it was hard for me to step out and be in front. And it made me more comfortable to be in the back. I was more effective, I thought, by being in the back. My service was of better use by propelling others and using my energies to push everybody else and keep me back. But that also kept me safe, because if you couldn't see me, you couldn't judge me, you couldn't talk about me, you couldn't criticize me. Um, so it became comfortable for me to just hide in the background. Um, I'm just a support. Don't ask me any questions. Ask them, and to really um, displace um, a lot of the things that I should have been doing for myself and sow them into other people. And that was wrong. Um, it wasn't wrong. It was a direct effect of my trauma. And when I finally decided to deal with that, and I came to the realization that um, I'm okay, and God is okay with me, and I don't need the validation of everybody else to be okay. I am not my parents' trauma. I am not anybody's victim. I am a victor, and I am Shalimar, and Shalimar is okay. And you'll hear me say that a lot, because you need to know that you're okay, and that again, beauty in your brokenness. And when I got to that place and I realized that I was allowing um, the the voices of other people to stop me and to over talk the voice of God, and that it was holding me back. It was a trick of the enemy, because the enemy didn't want me to win. The enemy doesn't want me to be whole. He doesn't want me to be healthy. There are people in the world who don't want me to be whole and healthy, because it makes them look better if they have somebody to talk about. So if she can stay down there and I can put myself up here, I can feel better about me, because I can always say, well, look at her, to make me feel better about me. And there are people in the world that are like that. They will dwell on your flaws and shortcomings. They will, point out every single thing you do wrong and literally ignore most of what you do right. Those are the people that do just enough to not look like a bitter hater. Beware of the bitter hater. Um, and they do those things because they got their own traumas that they need to deal with. They have their own shortcomings that they need to deal with. But it's easier to focus on somebody else's shortcomings than to focus on your own. I've been in that place. I'm guilty of it. But I'm honest enough to say that. But there are a lot of people who are not. So now that you've made yourself a priority and you are starting to step out into your own light, you're going to have those people that are really going to question, not believe, cast doubt, criticize, really just come for your neck. Like, there's just no nice way to put it. They're going to come for you in every way, shape, or form. They won't support, um, and will probably discourage others from supporting you based on some thing they feel you've done to them, or how they an action, or uh, something about you that they just don't feel fits their version of ministry or whatever it is you're trying to do. Um, and so they won't be in agreement, but you don't need them to be in agreement with you. As long as God is in agreement with you, you can't fail. You may not be able to reach them, but you'll be able to reach somebody else, and be okay with that. Sometimes you just have to accept things for what they are, um, and love people where they are, and meet them where they are. I'm a person who chooses to meet people where they are. So if you're down in the mud and you going through it, I'm coming down there with you. We're gonna roll around here together. Now, I'm not gonna stay down there with you because I ain't got time for that. But I'm gonna help you where you are to get to wherever God has assigned me to get you to. The best place that I can get you to within my scope, within my calling. Um, and then, when my time is up, God will always give you somebody else to help you. But that's okay. It's okay to just know and understand who and what you are and what you are called to do, and be confident in that. I say that to say, be confident in that. Be confident in what God has given you, and don't allow the voices of man and the world and the naysayers to overshadow or drown out the voice of God and what He's telling you. It can be so much as a whisper, but you got to listen. Sometimes if you're down there praying, you got to stay down a little longer just to hear, and be clear and be patient, because it may not come in that moment that you're praying. It may take some time. God comes when He wants to. I've learned that you can't rush Him. He going to do what I could ask Him something 3 months ago. I'm still waiting, because that's just who He is, and that's okay. And sometimes in our humanness, we become impatient, and oh, He ain't answering me, so that means I don't matter to Him. And we just build up this whole mental case as to why God is just not doing what I asked Him to do. Well, oh well, He gonna do it in His time. You have to be patient and you have to wait. And I've had to have that conversation with myself. Like, if you don't go sit down somewhere and be patient, I don't have patience. That's not my strong suit. But I'm learning in this season that I have to be patient with God, because He is extremely patient and gracious with me. So that was also a learning curve. But be okay, um, with the greatness that is you. Don't compare your greatness to somebody else, and don't allow anybody else to compare or pit their greatness against you. Okay, that's what you're called to do. That's what you're called to do. But what I'm called to do, I'm going to walk in that. And no, it may not look like what you're called to do, but that doesn't make it wrong. It doesn't make it not of God. It just is not for you. What God has for you is for you, and what He has for me is for me. And don't get away from that. If you can hold on to that, what God has for you is for you. What He has for me is for me. If you can hold on to that, it will make things a lot easier. So when your mind starts to stray and you're like, well, I don't know, you know, if He didn't want you to have it, He wouldn't have brought it to you. He wouldn't have put that down on the inside. That's not what He does. When something new comes to you, take it to Him in prayer. Write it down. Take it to Him in prayer. Ask Him to clarify what it is that He wants for you to do. Like, is this for me? And wait for that confirmation. I can tell you, I've had confirmation almost 20 times over. I woke up this morning to confirmation. Thank you, Jesus. I woke up to confirmation that what I'm doing is exactly what He wants me to do, because even in this, I still have questions like, God, I just want to be effective. I don't know, talking to these people, telling them my business. This may not be for me. He confirmed the thing a few times. You want to know, if what you're doing is for Him and for the good of the kingdom, ask Him, and He will answer in His own time. But He will answer. He will always send an answer. He's not just going to let you run around with like a chicken with your head cut off, making a mess of things. That's not what He wants for you to do. But you have to ask Him. You have to trust Him. You have to choose Him. Um, don't don't get caught up in trends and what you think, um, you should look like and operate like. Operate how God designed you to operate. Um, you know, again, I don't operate like church folk, traditional. Uh, I'm a straight shooter. I'm straight and to the point, and I like to laugh, and I'm not a stiff person. I could be a little too silly at times, but that's okay. That's what makes me comfortable. Sometimes I need to laugh to keep from crying, and some people may not know that, and they just might be like, "Yeah, it's always giggling." Yep, because down on the inside, I might be struggling with something. Down on the inside, I might be struggling with you, but I'm going to laugh to keep from losing my mind or saying something that I ain't got no business saying. Because guess what? I'm still human. It's the other lesson that I'm also learning, and that is God will make you serve those same people that mishandled you, misjudged you, um, belittled you, and demeaned you. Oh yeah, oh yeah. He will put you in a position to have to serve them in some capacity. But it's a lesson, and it's also teaching you to be confident in you, and confident in Him, and confident in your calling. Because when you can go back to those people that put you down, that judged you, that told you weren't going to be nothing, or told you that God didn't call you to do that because you don't do this, and this, or the ones that constantly are harping on your flaws and the things that you do wrong, but then He turns right back around and puts you in front of them and gives you something for them, or puts you in a position to have to serve them. Do it. Do it. Do it because He said so. Because, yep, you're going to have to, in order to walk in this thing and the visions that He gives you and operate, you're going to have to sometimes serve people and deal with people that didn't want to deal with you. That's just the way it is. That's what being a true servant leader um, is all about. I've been put in that position many times. And, you know, on one of our, the roundtable that I do with my sisters of M7, we talked about walking in a fence, and you can catch that video on Facebook, and how to come out of that thing, because offense will hold you hostage. Offense stems from trauma, because somebody could have said something that really triggered you, but that's when coming back to square one of dealing with your traumas and realizing the things that trigger you, and understanding that yes, they can hinder you um, from moving forward. But today we're really focusing on our self-image and how our traumas affected how we saw ourselves, how our um, traumas affect how we feel other people see us, and how to deal with that, how to move forward from it, how to be free from it, so that you can operate comfortably. You can't hold yourself hostage, because that's what's happening. You're holding yourself hostage. You're holding you hostage to things that you have no control over. A person's opinion is a person's opinion. They're entitled to it just like you're entitled to yours. Understand that you can either receive it or not. That's that. You have opinions. But we need to stop holding on to secret shame and secret conviction of ourselves based on what other people say. They are entitled to that. That don't make it true. My grandmother said, and I miss her so much, because they were, both my grandmothers were very full of wisdom. And she would say, it's not what they call you, it's what you answer to. And in this season, I refuse to answer to any negative connotation that you try to associate with my name, my character, or my persona. I don't want it. I don't receive it. I don't accept it. I bind it. Go away. Um, and that's that. Especially if I know it's strictly based in your own opinion. But people will hold you to a standard that they don't even hold themselves to, because again, it makes them feel better about them. And once you realize that and know and understand that, my God, the freedom that comes with knowing simply that. So when they do come at you, you can now look at them and be like, okay, hope you feel good about you. Because I definitely feel good about me. And when you know that you're trying and you're working daily to be the best you can be, okay, But you focusing on the negative. You're not focusing on the fact that I'm trying my best to work through this. I'm trying my best to be better. Like, what more do you want me to do? Because my evolution, my growth, my maturity is not happening in your time. Yeah, all right, okay. But like, there's nothing else I can do or say to that. And so you just have to be mindful of what you receive and what you allow people to speak over and into your life. Know and understand that God has the final say. He chose you, He gave it to you, He's going to bless you. You just have to be okay with you. And when you learn to be okay with you, it will open up so many doors and so many new opportunities for you because you won't be operating in that fear of what everyone else has to say about you. So, I'm gonna leave you with the same thing I left you with in the last video. The sun shines alone every day. But guess what? It still shines. Have a blessed day and shine on.